Hi everyone, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And you know, when we started this channel 3.5 years ago, it was quite a novelty to see a plug-in hybrid vehicle on the road. But these days, we're seeing more and more of them. Something not so common though is a plug-in hybrid minivan. In fact, there's only one of them available, and it's this guy right here. The Pacifica Hybrid was launched for the 2017 model year, and Chrysler suggests that when you plug this thing into a socket, you should see 53 kilometers of all-electric, kid-toting, Costco shopping, carpool-ready range. Now, when we tested the conventional all-gasoline Pacifica a couple of years back, we really liked what we saw. It's got a versatile yet good-looking interior, it's got a bit more pep than we expected, and it also has top safety marks from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. But it was thirstier than we'd hoped for as well. We averaged a hefty 10.9 liters per 100 kilometers over a week of driving. So if fuel economy is a really key consideration for you and you need the capability of a minivan, perhaps the Pacifica Hybrid is just the ticket. That is, if you can stomach the $15,000 price differential between a base version of the conventional Pacifica and a base version of this car. So to weigh all of this out and see if that rather significant jump in price is worthwhile, we're spending a week on board this fuel-sipping family hauler this week here on Family Wheels. Well, you know a vehicle has done something new and kind of special when you have a hard time even finding a competitor to compare it to. And since no other minivan is a hybrid or a plug-in, the Pacifica Hybrid is kind of on its own little island. And the closest competitors that I could come up with are the likes of the much smaller Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in SUV, or maybe the new fuel-sipping Chevy Equinox diesel. But these aren't really fair comparisons either, because this is a vacuous, child and gear-devouring minivan. And when you compare this to the more typical gasoline version of the Pacifica, its dimensions are exactly the same. That means second and third row seating is roomy and comfortable for everyone from newborns to tall adults like me, and every one of the seats back there has easy to access car seat anchor points. Kids are obviously front of mind in a vehicle like this because our rear facing car seat test came back with a luxurious 32 inches from the back of the front passenger seat up to the glove box, and those are exactly the same numbers that we saw in the new Honda Odyssey earlier this month. And like the Odyssey, one feature that's missing from the Pacifica that we're seeing in the likes of the new Ford Expedition or the Volkswagen Atlas is a second row seat that can flip forward for easy access to the third row even when you have a car seat installed. Now that I've used that feature, I really miss it in cars that don't have it, especially when we're talking about this kid-focused minivan segment. But you do get captain's chairs in the second row of the Pacifica Hybrid as standard, so there's still a pass-through in the middle of the van, but perhaps not quite as convenient to access that third row when a car seat's in anyway. These captain's chairs also mean you only have seating for 7 rather than 8 if you have a bench in the second row, so if you've got a really big crew, this might not be ideal. But one feature that really separated the normal Pacifica from the competition when we were testing it back in 2016 that you don't get here in the hybrid is the stow and go second row. Here in the hybrid version, Chrysler had to find some space for all the battery cells, and they put them underneath the second row floor. So if you want to get rid of the second row, you can't just put them down into the floor and call it good. Instead, you'll have to awkwardly unlatch them, haul them out of there, and then carve out space in your garage for storage too. Now, when I tell you that this car, the hybrid, comes in at a much steeper starting price than the regular Pacifica, that's true, but it's also true that the more conventional gasoline Pacifica starts at a lower trim level. So here on this version, you start at a higher trim with much better standard features. In the hybrid, trims are pared down to a trio of more upscale options. The base Touring Plus trim starts at $51,445 Canadian and includes a proximity key key with push-button start, a 12-way power driver's seat, 3 zones of climate control, a 7-inch infotainment system screen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and dual power sliding doors. The Touring L trim is probably the real value buy because for $1,500 more, you add on leather, heated front seats, a power tailgate, remote start, and blind spot monitoring. And then this limited trim tips the scales at $56,595 Canadian before tax and any provincial incentives that you might happen to have. But you also bump up the luxury with higher grade Nappa leather seats, a larger 8.4-inch infotainment system screen with navigation, and hands-free sliding doors and tailgate. Now that's a lot of coin. You can get a lot of luxury SUV for that money, but Chrysler often deeply discounts their cars too, which should help take the sting off, provided you do your due shopping diligence and find yourself a good deal. Now all trims on this car come with the same powertrain. You get a 3.6 liter V6 engine coupled up to a hybrid system. That's what gives you your fuel economy, and that all gets run through an electronically variable transmission. Plug the Pacifica Hybrid into a wall socket and it can travel up to 53 kilometers on strictly electric range. That's quite good for a plug-in hybrid. Once that's depleted though, it acts like a typical hybrid, plowing brake forces, even extra coasting power back into the battery packs. And with the batteries totally drained, we've still managed an impressive 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers this week. But if you combine that with our strictly electric drive times around town, we bring it up to an amazing 4.8 liters per 100 kilometers, which is totally unheard of in a big hulking minivan like this. My one beef with the plug-in system is that it is a bit slow to charge. You're looking at around 14 hours with the supplied level 1 charger that you can plug into a typical household outlet, or you're looking at 2 hours with a more heavy-duty stage 2 charger. Now one thing I really like is the charge indicator on the dash, so you can quickly look through the windshield if you're at home and the car's parked in your driveway, or even if you're out with a friend and you've got it plugged in at a coffee shop, and you can see where you stand in the charging process. And once you're on the road, the eco coaching tool that's here on the instrument cluster helps show you ways to improve your fuel efficiency in the way you drive. And the infotainment system screen can also clearly and concisely show you how power is getting used in that moment, or how much electric range you still have on tap. And despite this being both a minivan and a hybrid, which really does sound like the kiss of death for fun to drive factor, I'm actually finding the Pacifica Hybrid quite athletic. The pickup in this thing is pretty surprising. It has a nicely weighted steering feel. It doesn't feel like we've got a lot of body roll when we're putting it through the corners. Devin and I both really quite like it. We don't, however, like this gear shift dial thing. It's annoying for quick shifts while you're doing a 4-point turn or if you're parallel parking. And as ridiculous as this might sound in a minivan review, I'm actually quite missing those paddle shifters that we had on the Honda Odyssey a couple of weeks ago. They are really quite helpful no matter what vehicle you're driving, for say gearing down when you're going down a big hill, or for helping bring you to a stop when you're coming up to a stoplight. But I gotta say, this car, and I noted this when we were driving around the regular Pacifica as well back in 2016, it really is a delight to drive, and that carries over into the cabin as well. The seats, I think, are best in class, hands down. Really comfortable, nice and supportive. Chrysler has really piled on the noise baffling and cancellation technology in here too for a decibel reading at a very premium 60 decibels at 100 kilometers an hour for us this week. Fit and finish is good, and there are tons of clever storage bins and nooks for all your stuff. That's important in a minivan. Now the optional Uconnect theater system in the back here is also pretty untouchable in the segment. Not only can it play Blu-ray or HDMI movies, but there are 2 separate screens for both of the second row passengers, which means that each of them can do their own thing. Or if your kids want to, say, challenge each other to a game of tic-tac-toe or hangman, there are games on board these things too, and the screens also connect with one another, so it's super cool. But while the seats up front here are very comfortable and the ventilated seat option on the highest level trim we're driving is a nice touch, those tiny perforations carry over into the second row as well. And that's a big mistake for a family framed minivan, because those perforations are brutal for cleaning up messes and kind of defeat the whole easy wipe down benefits of going with leather in a family car. And speaking of the ventilated seats, there are a lot of features just buried into sub-menus on the Pacifica's infotainment system screen. Yeah, so we've got fewer buttons on the dashboard here, and that makes for a cleaner interior look. But when you want to hunt down simple functions like turning on the heated seats or the ventilated seats or syncing the climate control zones, it shouldn't have to be so multi-stepped. It really just means that I've spent way more time this week with my eyes off the road trying to figure this out than I would have liked. Now, speaking of eyes on the road, while a lot of other vehicles these days are offering LED headlights, especially on the higher level trims, we just have halogen headlights here on the Pacifica Hybrid, and I'm finding they're just not cutting it for really dark nighttime driving. Now, if you're looking to do a bit of towing with your Pacifica Hybrid, I'm going to stop you right there, because while the regular version of this van has been rated to tow 3,500 pounds, which is perfectly respectable for a minivan, there's no tow rating whatsoever here on the hybrid version. But while I can fault the Pacifica Hybrid for little niggly things like this, the big picture on this van is damn impressive. We have nearly 2,500 liters of cargo capacity behind the second row seats, comfortable seating for 7 with groundbreaking fuel economy, and dare I say, a sporty driving feel. Honestly, I wasn't really expecting to say this, but the Pacifica Hybrid has it going on. Now, next time we're looking at the new extended version of the very popular Lexus RX. Just a bit more space in the back for your crew and all their gear. You can see how that one plays out 7 days from now, right here on Family Wheels.